If you want to 3 times the sex in your relationship, or if you want to bring a dead bedroom back to life, I have never seen anything in my 15 years of training and clinical experience that was as effective as attachment work. It worked for Jack. Jack came to me and told me that he hadn't had sex with his wife in 4 years. Now, his wife of 17 years stopped desiring him about 8 years into their marriage, and the sex slowly through the years died off. Now he lived in a sexless marriage, and he came to me to fix it. Now, I did the usual assessment. Did you have attachment issues? What was your family history? What's your job? Do you have kids? Relationship patterns. Now, he and his wife, Sarah, they had 2 kids together, but the problems actually started way before the kids were born. Okay. I brought Sarah into the second session. I got her side of the story too. There was no emotional connection in the relationship at all since the start of the marriage. This led to a dwindling romantic connection. At first, she was having a lot of sex with him because she was afraid of losing him. But years in, she burned out on that and it just started to fall apart. Where Jack blamed having kids as the big turning point, she said that having kids only cemented the physical separation for her. Now, they hadn't shared a bed together in 4 years, and she didn't really care if he ever touched her again. Now, I want to hammer this point home. Sarah did not hate Jack, but she felt nothing for him. And he was miserable. He could not live this way anymore. I'll be honest with you guys. I meet a new couple exactly like this every 3 weeks or so. It's always a similar story. There is low sex, there's no emotional connection, and in every single case, there are hidden attachment issues that neither person has ever understood. It's a shock to them when I show them what the problem is. Now, the husband's usually the one who brings me in. He comes in, he says, look, Adam, I am miserable. Can you get me more sex with my wife? Because we haven't had sex in 4 years. She's broken or something. I've done everything that everybody tells me to do to turn a woman on. Nothing is working. But I'm going to tell you this. I have never seen a case where we could not get that wife's sex drive way up, as long as both of them were on board to try new things. And not bedroom things, attachment things, emotional intimacy, real authentic connection. I've worked with couples even when the woman was in menopause and hormonal changes were hitting, and we still boosted her sex drive way up. There has never been a process or a case where I could not help that couple improve their sex life purely through attachment. I am Adam Lane-Smith, the attachment specialist, retired licensed marriage and family therapist. I focus on helping couples and individuals all over the world improve their romantic relationships. In this video, I am going to show you why passion dies and the opening steps that you must take to crank that thermostat back to burning hot. Let's go. So why does passion die? Why do loving couples stop having sex? So as one of my clinical supervisors drilled into my head in graduate school and in my practicum period, to understand answers and to find solutions, first we need to understand how a system works before we can see where it breaks down. So how does sexual desire actually work? In the first year, a lot of it is driven by dopamine. It's the novelty of a new experience, the novelty of, oh, I'm having sex with somebody new. It's, well, this is a lot of fun. Tons of dopamine is bursting in your brain. Usually the first 6 to 7 months, it's a dopamine eruption. But eventually, dopamine and novelty starts to wear off. We know that dopamine is habit forming. We know that people who use dopamine and binge on it have to escalate and escalate and escalate. This is why a lot of young couples at 7 months, they have an affair. One of them starts looking elsewhere. They break up. Dopamine tapers off. What's supposed to take over is something called oxytocin. What I call the oxytocin pipeline. Oxytocin is a love hormone that releases in the absence of stress when you feel close and connected and trusted and bonded, and when the other person shares openly with you. In other words, when you feel relaxed and safe and engaged in the relationship, and the other person is too, you release oxytocin and you bond with the other person. Now, oxytocin allows you to release something called GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid. Now, this is an inhibitory neurotransmitter that shuts down future expressions of cortisol, stress. So it keeps stress down. It keeps down anxiety. It keeps down depression. It keeps you feeling good. It also helps you release melatonin so you sleep better at night. It does a number of things, but this is the oxytocin pipeline. This also helps you release serotonin, which makes you feel really good. Serotonin is not habit forming, so you don't burn out on serotonin. You feel content. You feel relaxed and joyous in your relationships. I call this the oxytocin pipeline. It is supposed to start building. Now, emotional intimacy comes in and builds that connection. The oxytocin pipeline towards sex looks like this. You start building emotional intimacy. You trust each other. You hear about each other's stories. You know each other's innermost thoughts. You share and connect as a couple, and you feel emotionally safe and trusted and loved. As that emotional intimacy goes up, it releases oxytocin, which makes you desire spontaneous connection with the other person. This is what makes you want to hug and kiss and grab the other person and be near them. It makes you want to be in their presence more often and to be close to them and then show affection to them. This is non-sexual physical intimacy, hugging, touching, massage, rubbing, holding hands, rubbing your hands through their hair, just wanting to touch them, okay? That, in turn, leads to what's called sexual physical intimacy. Not sex, but grabbing their butt, groping them, kissing them, starting to make out, all kinds of those pieces that move toward being connected. Sometimes we call this foreplay. Foreplay is the second half of sexual physical intimacy. It's what happens once you get into the bedroom, but you're not quite ready to go. You start leading into foreplay. Oxytocin is building all of this through the day. Emotional intimacy, the non-sexual touching, the sexual touching, the foreplay, into sex and intercourse. Now, once you have that sex and intercourse, the female partner, especially, the more high oxytocin she has, the easier it is to have orgasms. Oxytocin is what creates the constriction in the uterus. We use synthetic oxytocin. Here in the United States, we call it Pitocin, to induce labor in a woman. That's oxytocin. It's synthetic. But it induces those contractions in the uterus, which is also similar to an orgasm. Once she has that, she floods with more oxytocin, making it easier to lead into the next orgasm and the next. And then she's flooded with oxytocin, so afterwards she's super close and happy, which makes it more likely for you to have sex again later on that day or the next day, because now you're flooded with oxytocin. The female sex drive is built on this oxytocin pathway especially. It's not mysterious. Guys, the female sex drive is not mysterious in the least. It's a system. That emotional closeness, where she has low cortisol, so she's able to release oxytocin. The emotional closeness where you're sharing with her and bonding with her, where she knows you, where she feels valued for more than just sex, where she feels valued in a way that cannot be replaced by another woman, where she feels safe, where she feels useful to you, so she won't be abandoned. The male sex drive, interestingly, also requires oxytocin over time. Once the dopamine starts to fade, you're not just, I'm looking to have sex with a woman. But no, the oxytocin says, I love this woman. I want to have sex with this woman. What's fascinating is oxytocin, after that first year, becomes a driver of sexual performance for males, right? This might be the answer to many erectile dysfunction issues that men face, is oxytocin. It shoves blood into those areas, and then it also helps you release, after you're in your climax, of a great climax, oxytocin. When you have high oxytocin, guys, you have high performance. I'll just let you know. So where does this system break down? 4 different places that this can really break down, okay? Men with avoidant attachment. I'm going to pick on you first. You're not to blame, but you are one driving force that I have seen over and over again. The research shows that about 25% of the population has avoidant attachment, and primarily that's a male issue. Men tend to avoid, women tend to be anxiously attached. So men with avoidant attachment, they tend not to communicate. They tend not to open up. They tend to be solitary as an oyster. They don't share their needs. They are very self-contained. They don't share a need with a woman, and what that does is, over time, it diminishes the emotional intimacy where she feels rejected. She doesn't feel useful to you. She doesn't feel trusted by you. She doesn't feel connected to you. She has nothing. At the beginning of this video, I talked about Jack and Sarah. Those aren't their real names, but Sarah was dealing with Jack's avoidance. Sarah had her own issues, but Jack never shared with her or opened up with her. He tried to just make her feel good by pushing buttons, but didn't give her an authentic emotional connection. And she didn't even know to ask for it. Avoidant men, you might be accidentally triggering this by being self-reliant, by being independent, by pulling away, by holding back in ways that is actually starving your female partner of oxytocin. If you completely shut off the oxytocin pipeline, her sex drive will die. That's the number one issue that I see, is an anxious woman and an avoidant man. Pipeline shut off. Now, men with anxious attachment. I've also seen this, right? Men with anxious attachment who are approval seeking, who are insecure, over time, you look less trustworthy. You look unstable. Sometimes you look more childish to her. And her desire for you, her respect for you will actually start to diminish and die. Especially if you've connected with an avoidant woman who now feels exhausted by your emotional needs. She doesn't know how to meet your needs. It feels exhausting to her. She will shut down. Her sex drive, gone. Okay? Women with anxious attachment, it's not just men with avoidant attachment causing your problem. Women with anxious attachment often have sex as a performance to try to get approval, to try to make their male partner love them, to try to get validation, so he won't leave you. Sex is very often for anxious women not about having pleasure or orgasm. They don't even think about that. They don't even care. It's mostly there so they don't get left behind. It's there to please somebody else. So then why have sex? In fact, it's really hard to have sex long term like that. Eventually your approval seeking will burn out anyway, especially if you never get what you're looking for. Women with avoidant attachment. A very specific, unique pattern that I experienced. A lot of women with avoidant attachment, they don't have almost any oxytocin at all, and they can actually run away from it. It can make them scared. So their sex drive often is dopamine driven. But then easing into the relationship, it's more about occasionally getting validation and then maintaining their partner. A lot of women with avoidant attachment will actually just face the other way, no kissing, because that intimacy is too much for them. And then you have sex, once a month when your hormones go up from your cycle, usually. Sex once a month, facing away, no kissing. And most husbands are not content with that after a few years. All of these are problems, and I'm not here to blame anyone or shame anyone. You might be feeling right now a little bit ashamed or a little bit sad. That's okay. Any of these 4 problems on their own can disrupt that oxytocin pipeline, but there's usually at least 2 of these issues at the same time. It's very rarely just one person who's the problem. It's usually both partners have issues and their dynamic is messed up. It's not one person being bad. Now, guys, especially with stress, okay, with fighting, with life issues, with drama, with dopamine binges, etc. All these things that come in and make life so challenging. Maybe you can get along with what you were in the first couple years if life didn't get in the way, but it gets hard. Okay? All of these issues lead to low oxytocin in her. And then low sex. And then the passion dies. And then you guys feel disconnected. This has been the case in almost every couple I have ever worked with that had sex issues. Again, even couples where she had menopause, hormone issues, where she had cancer, right? Or even if she had lifelong low sex drive. Even issues where the man had erectile dysfunction. Even issues with heavy porn use. Even issues where her sex drive was low from sexual abuse. Or other traumas, sexual traumas in her history, okay? No matter what the issue is, fixing the oxytocin pipeline has fixed the passion and fixed the sex for every couple. Now, does every couple have sex 8 times a day? Not all of them. But getting to a place where you're fulfilled, where your sex life is way hotter than it is right now, and where both people are mutually happy and fulfilled, absolutely crucial. Okay? So, all of that is the problem. Now let's talk about the solution. Here's how to lay a foundation for that oxytocin pipeline in your relationship. You start, number 1, by getting on the same page. Okay? Agree that both of you want to fix this problem, this sex issue, and the relationship itself, even if you don't know how to yet. Okay? A statement of unity. Yes, I would like to have a better relationship with you. I don't know if I want more sex with you yet. That's usually the female partner. I don't know if I want more sex with you yet because her oxytocin's not high, so she doesn't have sex desire for him. But yes, I would love to have a more emotionally intimate relationship, or I'd love to be able to talk with you more. I'd love less fighting. I would love for us to work this out. A statement of unity is absolutely important. Men and women need to come together and say, yes, we want to fix this. Okay, then we are willing to do the work. We are willing to try something new. Cool. Next step, investigate emotional intimacy. Okay? Discuss together if communication is lacking, or if sharing is low, or if the female partner especially feels disconnected to him through a lack of talking. If you guys don't share your needs, if you don't open up to each other, if you're not able to have the difficult talks about embarrassing things. If sharing and connection is low, your oxytocin pipeline is shut off. I have a video for this on my channel. If emotional intimacy is a confusing, vague topic, what is emotional intimacy? Go check out that video after this one. Don't go yet. Check out that video after this one. What is emotional intimacy? I make it very simple. There's another video that you can watch on my channel called How to Have Way More Sex in Your Marriage. It talks about specific communication skills, one of which I teach in my coaching package with people. I could teach you guys in a couple of sessions exactly how to communicate and build emotional intimacy. Many husbands come into me for one session to understand what emotional intimacy is and what their wife is looking for. What the heck does she mean when she says, talk to me? What am I supposed to say? Does she want to hear about football? I don't know. A lot of men come into me, even just for a single session, to talk about what emotional intimacy is. And that's game changing when they finally understand that. Next, men, you have to do this. If you want more sex in your marriage, you must do this. Spend more time talking. I know that sounds like hell. In particular, focus on sharing rather than solution finding. Share context for how you feel and what you think about things. I know it's very hard for men to do this. It's counterintuitive, but it is crucial that you learn this if you want to have more sex in your relationship. And for the relationship to not end in divorce, by the way. Sex is the icing on the cake. Marriage is the cake. A good marriage. Share more context about your wants, your needs, the challenges you experience. Even things that you feel embarrassed about. Even if you feel embarrassed about this sharing process. Even if sharing is hard for you and why it's hard for you. That information alone. I have seen men open up and say, let me explain to you why sharing is hard for me. It's because this and this and this in my life was so painful and I learned to never connect anybody. And the woman's eyes like light up and she like leans into him because she's so into this, because she's so connected to hearing about his feelings and his experiences. Context is king when it comes to being understood and building emotional intimacy, okay? Those conversations will guide you into understanding each other better. And that means you can find the solutions together. I recommend about 10 minutes each day of sharing about your context, okay? If that's hard, again, schedule with me. I will teach you exactly how to do that in a way that does not feel like pulling teeth. I know it can feel that way. Finally, women, you must do this. More non-sexual physical touch. Most men today are starved for touch. And most husbands who say they're craving sex, well, yeah, they are, but they're equally starved for your physical affection. Sex is the only way he knows how to get that. Most men don't know that they can ask you for physical affection outside of sex. It's embarrassing. Hold his hand more. Lean against him while you're sitting. Maybe run your fingers through his hair. Lay your head on his chest. Drape your legs over his legs while you guys are sitting together. In general, touch him a lot more. Nobody else on the planet probably is touching him. He is now living in an isolated context where he has no human contact and he is begging for yours. That's one reason a lot of men push so hard for sex. It's the only acceptable place to get human contact. Most husbands only know how to feel close through sex, but this non-sexual touch can be an immense boost for both of you and can generate great oxytocin for both of you. Really helpful for guys with erectile dysfunction, interestingly. I've seen couples turn around just with this basic approach. More sharing, more non-sexual physical touch. Because they finally feel like a couple again. The husband feels his wife's affection. The wife feels like a priority to her husband. Guys, I know these opening tips, they can be hard. If you have attachment issues that are getting in the way, if you're anxious, you're avoidant, you're resentful, there's fighting, you're confused, you don't know what's going to help, okay? If you try these steps and it's really frustrating, reach out to me for couples coaching. I have the marriage rescue package available, okay? I will help you. I will help you clear the obstacles out of your way and get back to loving each other. And just like Jack and Sarah, you can build sex 3 times a week that you both loving and enjoying, and life can get so much better from there. So guys, this is only the foundation. There is so much more here. This is how to build the basic minimum into your relationship. But building this foundation creates that oxytocin pipeline that you need to rekindle the passion. There's a great bonus here. Vasopressin bonding solves the problem together. Vasopressin is a hormone released when you solve challenges together, when you achieve goals together. Fighting this problem together, vasopressin bonds you. Really important that you be able to do that. Okay? Vasopressin is also helpful for keeping couples together. In fact, the research shows that when you vasopressin bond together as a couple, you then initiate a new honeymoon phase. So solving these challenges, really important. Satisfaction will go up, guys, if you do this. Sex will go up. Happiness will go up. I've seen this in hundreds of couples. You can be the next happy couple to find passion again. And again, if you have any issues, contact me immediately. Let a professional show you how to build this bond. I am Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist, and I recommend you go check out my next video, What is Emotional Intimacy? I'll see you there.